This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by former world champion David Haye here in London. David, how's life treating you?
Life's treating me very well, thank you. I'm trying to get some body fat off before the 1st of January. We did an 8-week fat to fit challenge to show everyone how to lean up without working too hard.
Talk to me about that, David, because obviously I saw your post about it and the mission you're on to do so. It's always surprising because whenever I've seen you, you're always in pretty good nick.
Yeah, but I don't really. People think I train really hard. You know, as a boxer, I trained crazy hard, doing 5-6 hours of training a day. It's not realistic. I'm 42 now. I'm retired from professional athletics, so it's time for me to now find a healthy balance to live my life without having to do too much thinking. So I've got a nice little diet that I have now, and it keeps me in the shape that I look like I'm in the gym 3 hours a day, but I'm not. And I can eat what I want to eat, kind of when I want to eat in certain windows. So yeah, I'll be showing people more about it over the time on Instagram.
When you are back in the gym, David, do you miss it? Do you ever get that itch to get back between the ropes?
No, the only time I get an itch is when I'm actually doing it. You know, I got an itch a year ago when I had an exhibition fight. I definitely got the itch there because I was in there doing it under the lights. But as time's gone on past then, the itch has got less and less and less until there's no itch at all. So I'm going to try and stay away from getting into boxing. I want to look in aesthetic shape. You know, I want to be able to lift weights. I want to be able to run and jump. But I don't need to have to be able to have a competitive 12-round contest against a 18-stone man. I don't need to do that because to do that requires so much energy, so much time, so much nutrition, so much sacrifice, so many early nights. I don't want to have to do that. So I want a nice, easy life, minimal exercise, maximum looks. That's what I'm going for.
You mentioned your previous exhibition bouts. If there's a lot of those going on at the minute, do you think that could tempt you back between the ropes as some lucrative fights potentially?
An exhibition and a real fight is kind of the same. You have to prepare. You know, you have to prepare the same way. You still got to spar. You got to do your training. And even when I did the exhibition fight, I did all the training I would have done if it was a legitimate fight. The fact that the commission sanctioned it as an exhibition bout, not a real fight. It was actually supposed to be a real fight, and at the last minute they switched it to an exhibition. So the prep was all done the same way. So yeah, I don't fancy any exhibition fights.
Whyte-Franklin, Saturday night versus Dillian Whyte, David. Dillian's returned to the ring since his knockout defeat to Tyson Fury. What are you hoping to see from him, especially on the back of his link-up with Buddy McGirt?
I'm looking to see the opposite as what we saw in the ring, I think in April when he challenged the WBC champion Tyson Fury. What he did with the intensity, the mindset, that needs to be pushed to one side. And we need the old Dillian Whyte back. We need the guy howling. We need the guy really getting in there, roughing up Franklin, really putting the heat on him. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anything too clever, long range, too slick. Get in there, smash this guy up, and let's start calling out Usyk-Joshua, because that's the fight the fans really want to see. They want to see the big showdown, big all-British fight. Now, the first fight they had was amazing. Even their first amateur fight that they had, that Dillian won, was a great fight. Watch that on YouTube. It's a real humdinger of a scrap. And they can do it a third time. They're both a bit old, a bit more experienced. Both got a couple losses since. But let's see where the chips lie at the moment. I think it's a great fight.
David, as a former fighter yourself, and when you look at Dillian, you're saying you want to see that kind of raw, aggressive nature back in him. We saw it a little bit yesterday at the press conference when he kicked off with Dimitri Salita and Whyte-Franklin's trainer. What is it that you think that maybe we've seen him lose that? Why do you think it is we've seen him lose that recently?
I definitely thought he was a little subdued when he fought Fury in the last time out. I didn't like the friendly hugs and the handshaking. I thought, as soon as I saw that, I didn't like it. You know, knowing Dillian as I do, he's had, you know, I've been in the opposing corner, and that's the energy that he has as best, and he needs to just get back to what made him who he is. Get back to basics. Go back to the start. You're all about, you know, imposing your will on another man, and do that from start to finish. Press conference, weigh in. Don't have to be. You can shake a man's hand, but that's it. They're just hugging and friendly. For your style, it doesn't work. So I want to see him go back to what he did. That was right throughout his whole career.
You mentioned, provided he's successful on Saturday night, you'd like to see him start calling out Anthony Joshua, a rematch being spoken about by Eddie Hearn as well. And you also mentioned the potential Fury-Chisora trilogy. in AJ's perspective, is that the right move for him? His comeback fight after 2 back-to-back defeats to Alexander Usyk?
If he believes in himself, yes. If he believes he's a world champion, he lost 2 fights to Usyk. So if he believes he made an error in those fights and that he can be better than those nights suggest, then yeah, it's a perfect fight for him. It's a fight against someone he didn't win easily against last time out. He didn't get knocked down but got buzzed pretty bad. It was a real epic fight. They were both quite young. It'd be really nice to see where they both match up with each other, a few years down the line. And I definitely think it's a fight that Andi-Joshua would want because it gets the fans excited. It's not an unknown, unbeaten guy. It's someone who's, we know what he's about. Although he didn't look great in his last fight, that was against, someone that Andi-Joshua hasn't fought yet. Someone most people would say would beat Andi-Joshua. So there's only so much disrespect you can give Dillian off the strength of that loss. So I think it's a fight people want to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
David, with Anthony, he said that he wants to kind of float about now, work with different trainers, try and take in as much knowledge as possible. We saw him team up with Robert Garcia for the Alexander Usyk defeat out in Saudi Arabia. Potential talks of Roy Jones Jr. link up and doing some time with him. What would be your advice to him? Who would you like to see him work with?
Whoever he feels understands his style. Somebody else who understands that his fundamentals don't come from him boxing since he was 10 years old. So that 10 years that he missed, that Tyson Fury has gained, and you can see that in his boxing. You can see that he rides punches, he slips punches. That comes from when you're a kid. Someone's going to need to upgrade the instinctive boxing elements that are the opposite to when someone punches at you. Just putting your hands in front of yourself to try to brace the punch. Getting him to be able to see punches and ride punches and know what happens, but yeah, that comes from time, that comes from working. So someone who can understand that element of it will then, because just hitting the pads or talking strategy is one thing, it's the actual, when you're in the heat of the battle, where are your feet, where are your hands, how many times have you been hit with a left hook? Getting there with smaller guys, smaller light heavyweights, cruiserweights, just play boxing, play it, and have a coach that understands that, and he's not allowed to knock the little guy out. He's allowed to, he has 5 punches around, and he just play boxing because he needs more punches thrown at him every day. Hitting the bag, hitting the pads, hitting the mitts, hitting the bag, doing loads of weight training. That ain't going to make him a better boxer. It'll make him a better athlete, but it's proven that the athletic only goes so far. You then need the boxing IQ, and that boxing IQ can be upgraded, can be learned over time. How long would it take? I don't know, but the sooner he gets cracking with it, the better he'll be under fire. Most of the training that I used to do was on punch evasion. I used to spend multiple rounds with good, hard fighters, and I wouldn't be punching back a lot. I'd just be, if I'm pinned in a corner, I'll be have to understand and accept, okay, I can't punch back, so I just have to block and ride and be in a position to punch back if the opportunity rises. I should limit amount of right hands, for instance, I'd have in a round, and so I'd have to pick them. I have to wait for them, wait for the shot, and that type of stuff forces you to understand the rhythm of a fight. So he needs to go that route versus just getting some big, high-flying, big-name coach who's trained this champion, that champion. It sounds mad, but not go back to basics. He's got his style, but he just needs to add on to his existing style the little nuances that he missed out from starting so late and fast tracking his amateur career straight within 2.5 years. He's Olympic silver medalist, world champion silver medalist and Olympic gold medalist. Now, I was boxing for it took me 11 years to get the same silver medal. You with me? So he's been able to fast track all of that 10 years right there. So he needs to daily work on upgrading that. It takes 2-3 hours a day. He'll be able to do it, massive stuff in a few months.
David, we spoke about how you want to see Dillian get that aggressive nature back into him. With AJ on a fighting front, not in terms of his personality, he was saying that we needed to see him be more aggressive in that Usyk rematch. How would you go about trying to get that back into Anthony Joshua, back to that raw, aggressive nature, that knockout artist we saw up until maybe 16, 17 fights in his career?
He needs to have more competitive sparring sessions. the tempo and the rhythm in sparring needs to be a lot more realistic. And if you want a style where you're planning to knock someone out, then you need to knock out your sparring partners, or at least put them in a position where they're about to be knocked out. If you've got having a 12-round fight, you get 6 sparring partners. Let all of the sparring partners know they got 2 rounds each, and you try and knock them out in 2 rounds. And if you can knock all of them out in 1 round, you only do 6 rounds sparring that day. If you don't, you do 12 rounds. But each of the sparring partners know that they've got 2 rounds, so they can empty the tank on you. So it's kind of a bit of an unfair thing, but it'll put him in a position where the quicker he gets them out of there, you have to go for a lot of sparring partners, but he's a multi-millionaire, so there's plenty of sparring partners. You pay him enough to turn up, but he has to make his sparring sessions a lot more realistic, because you can't practice knocking someone out if you're not really practicing to knock someone out. You have to do what you're going to do in the fight and replicate those fight scenarios and situations where it's uncomfortable, but that's the fight game. You have to get comfortable in your own comfort zone. And from what I've heard about the way that the sparring was going, it was very technical, it was very controlled. Let's not waste any energy here, and let's save it for the fight and whatever it was. But that doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
David, next week, Fury-Chisora 3, Derek, your former man. How do you rate his chances? A lot of people writing him off before he's even stepped between the ropes.
Yeah, you understand that. You know, you look at the record, he's beaten twice before. How much success out of 10 being winning, 0 being losing, how much success did he have in the 23 rounds he had with him? You know, not that much. You know, so I understand it makes perfect sense why everybody's written him off. And it's just Derek Chisora needs to do the unthinkable. He needs to go out there and the same. When he was fighting Carlos Takam, he was getting absolutely pulverized. It was horrible. The referee was looking at stopping the fight, but he didn't, and it was a good thing he didn't, because he pulled that one shot out of the bag. So he has that one-punch power, even when things are looking dire for him. So, as a fight fan watching that fight, it's going to be interesting. I think it solely depends on what type of mindset Tyson Fury has. Is he going to come out there and try to establish his jab and keep it long and win as easy as possible with as less damage done to himself, which he could do, I believe? Or what I'm hoping he's going to do is think, okay, Derek's hit me on the chops a few times and it bounced off. I've been hit by Deontay Wilder, got knocked down, but I got back up. You know, does Derek punch as hard as Deontay Wilder? No. So how about I stand toe-to-toe and just go to war with Derek? Just literally, he wants to do war, I stand there toe-to-toe, and we just keep trading until one man falls down. If that happens, it gives Derek Chisora a lot more of an opportunity to land conclusive, clean shots. And it's a place that maybe Tyson Fury wants to go into, because he wants to give the fans that have come out on a cold day to open air football stadium, he wants to give them value for money. So I'm hoping he's going to go out there and go toe-to-toe and try and get Derek Chisora out of there early, because if he does, at least we're going to see a good, exciting fight. We don't see that jab and move stuff. That works and is effective, but you don't want to pay to see it. That makes sense.
David, just a final one from me. We know boxing fans love fantasy fights. If you'd have stepped between the ropes at cruiserweight with Alexander Usyk, are you confident you would have been the man to beat him? If so, how?
Yeah, I'd like to believe in my prime, the night I fought sort of Macronelli or Mormek, the speed and the timing, and I always liked southpaws. My right hand landed, and you know, watching Tony Bellew fight Usyk, Tony Bellew was controlling the fight whilst he was there. If he was young, if he was fresher, he could have done a lot better. You know, if I put myself in that same fight with Usyk and Tony, and take Tony out and put my prime in there, you know, I think I'd have definitely got that guy out of there. Obviously, the guy now is a different animal now at heavyweight. You know, he's put on some weight now. He's had tremendous fights. You know, his fight against Derek Chisora was a very close one. He scraped a sort of majority victory there. You know, when I fought Derek, I knocked him out in 5 rounds. So we had only one sort of similar opponent, and Tony Bellew. He knocked Tony Bellew out. Tony Bellew knocked me out twice. So I think I'd have been confident going into a fight with him. It'd have been tricky. It'd have been hard, but I would have found a way to get to him, and I wouldn't have allowed some of the stuff that he does to some of these bigger heavyweights. The stuff that he does to Anthony Joshua, he wouldn't have been able to do to me, because I'm quicker than he is. So, yeah, that was my answer.
David, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy tomorrow night. Thank you.
Our pleasure.